All right, let's get into this Week 10 slate in college football. Cannot believe that we are already in Week 10 in the college football season. And if there's any metaphor for how weird this year has been, how quickly this year is going by, look no further than what should be the signature game of this weekend, Alabama-LSU. It is always one of the signature games in college football. It is always one of the games that we have circled on the calendar. And this year, it's basically just completely forgotten. Alabama comes in as a 28.5-point favorite. The over-under is set for 66. And I'll just tell you, I think both those numbers are kind of right. In terms of the game itself, let's start with LSU, because I'll just say, even to backtrack, I talked a lot about both of these teams on Monday's show, and I don't think that much has changed in my opinion about these two teams. First of all, when it comes to LSU, I will say there has been a little bit of a development since the last time I recorded. That is this. Did you see that weird Coach O press conference on Monday or Tuesday where he basically threw everybody under the bus, including himself? If you haven't seen it, we posted it at the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube, the Aaron Torres Podcast Twitter page. And basically, Coach O was asked about the self-scouting process during the bye week. And he basically just says, yeah, we stink at everything. We're too predictable on first down. We're too predictable on second down. We're too predictable in run plays. We're too predictable in pass plays. He basically just said, my coaching staff stinks. I stink. We stink. And I think it was clear to me that there is a very clear disconnect between the coaching staff, the players, between Coach O and his staff. And I don't think that's the best thing going into this Alabama game. What I would also say on top of that, I've talked about it for weeks, but it is always worth revisiting here with LSU. And that's that they're really banged up, and that even though they have kind of recruited at this really high level, you think maybe the talent can rise to the occasion and play well against Alabama. I just don't think they have the horses to do it this weekend. I talk about it all the time, but they are down their top two cover corners in this game. Two guys that are future NFL players, All-American caliber cornerbacks, and Derek Stingley, who will be a top 10 pick in this coming NFL draft. Eli Ricks, who will be a first-rounder in the 2023 NFL draft, not this coming year, but the following one. They're both out. A starting safety is out. That is bad news against an Alabama team that is throwing the ball for over 300 yards per game. And so I think that is a metaphor for this game and how I look at it. I've said it for weeks. Listen, I got to call it like it is. And if you listen to this podcast, the Aaron Torres podcast, my YouTube channel, whatever, I don't think this is a vintage Alabama team. I think this Alabama team has real weaknesses. I think they have real ways to be exploited. I just don't know that LSU is the team to do it. And so when I look at this game, think about it like this. How can you beat Alabama? How did Texas A&M beat Alabama? How have they been exposed? How did they struggle against Florida? Well, it comes down to a few things. One, when it comes to Alabama, they do not have a very good secondary right now, okay? Their secondary is struggling. They rank 53rd nationally in pass defense. You go back to that Tennessee game about two and a half weeks ago, Hendon Hooker, on one leg, the Tennessee quarterback, was able to move the ball through the air against this Alabama team. Well, again, what did I just tell you? LSU's top two cover corners are out of this game. On top of that, Bryce Young has, on the offensive end, received a lot of pressure. He has been sacked 18 times this year in 8 games. That is in the bottom half of college football in terms of total sacks allowed on a season. And so why do I bring it up? There are very clear ways to beat Alabama. Get pressure on Bryce Young. He doesn't make mistakes. I am so impressed by Bryce Young, but you got to get pressure on him, and you got to make him, throw the ball away, not get the ball to Jamison Williams, all his wide receivers. But what I'm telling you is I just don't think that LSU has the guys to get pressure on him, to make him get rid of the ball quickly. And then I don't think they have the corners to cover Alabama's receivers, who aren't even elite by recent Alabama standards. On top of that, I don't think LSU has the skill position guys on offense now that my boy Kayshon Boutte is out for the year. How are they going to beat that Alabama secondary? On top of that, the run game again struggled for LSU in the most recent game. Remember, they had about 2 games where they really ran the ball well. One was against Kentucky, even in a loss. But then after that, they ran the ball effectively against Florida as well. Last game we saw them against Ole Miss, they averaged 2 yards per carry, and that's not going to get the job done. And so all of this is me kind of dancing around the subject, so let me just get right to the hypothesis of what I think about this Alabama-LSU game. I think there is a way to beat Alabama. I don't think that LSU has the players, the healthy players needed to execute that game plan.